So, John, you've been very busy since you were on our very, very maiden show back in February.
Yeah, when you started your new show.
This one, yeah. Mm-hmm. Jeffy Said What?
Yeah.
So, what have you been up to? A lot.
That's a big sigh. A lot. Yeah.
That's the sigh before he just starts dumping. Right? Am I right? Oh, okay.
Well, still, we still have Firefighters4Freedom going.
How many years has it been? 4?
Yeah, has it been 4 yet? It's close. Getting close to 4 years now. Nonprofit that started out of COVID because of the mandates that were implemented in the city of Los Angeles, stating that you had to get vaccinated or be terminated. And so we felt that was wrong, violating,
We did your very first radio interview in this room.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. You and RJ... Pat, was it RJ that you had with you?
God, I don't remember who was with me.
There's two of you. The studio looked a little different.
Yeah.
And I remember interviewing you on the Los Angeles Hispanic Republican Club radio show with that. Mm-hmm. And then we had you on several times as we moved into the larger studio. Mm-hmm. And I did your very first rally.
Yes, you did.
I remember. Yeah. I was just like, we have got to get the word out.
We did that, and the bishop was there for that.
Bishop Mendez.
Oh, yeah. I loved it. Bishop he's a gangster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's gangster. He's like, you guys gotta go lay in the street. And here's John and all these firefighters.
He didn't say lay.
That.
He was just like,
we save lives.
Yeah. He was.
It's like, go lay in the street.
I had to walk a thin line there.
Right. We had disrupt.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was good.
Your lives are being disrupted. You need to disrupt others. I was like, okay.
Yeah, he's like, go lay in the street. You're protected by God.
I don't remember. Remember the lid. Don't put words in that man's mouth.
I'm telling you, did he not tell you guys to go lay in the street? He said, go sit in the street.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it was lay or sit or
whatever. It was
yeah.
Get your butt in the street. And they were like, nope, sorry, we're using the crosswalk.
Yeah.
Then the next rally you guys put on, you were all over it. You were in the street, on the sidewalk.
There was 10,000 people in Grand Park.
And 10,000 people in Grand Park, and the news said, look, there's 1,000 people.
Do
you guys know how to count?
A couple hundred.
A couple hundred, right? Maybe 1,000. Like there are 10,000. We were there.
There's always a few loose screw ones out there. Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show you how media works.
Yeah, and then Beverly Hills.
Yes, yeah, we did the Beverly Hills. Mm-hmm. God, we did so many rallies during COVID.
Yeah.
We were really activated, and it was amazing the people that were activated. And guess what? 4 years later, they all voted.
Yeah,
right. And California is pretty red.
Yeah. Well, it always has been,
Yeah, but if you look at the map from prior to Tuesday to Wednesday, it's quite red.
Yeah.
It got a little bit more red.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump took 40% of the vote in California.
Well, it's like that picture I just showed you, all the states that, what was it? All the states. What?
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right. So anyway, moving forward. So you still have Firefighter4Freedom.
Yeah, we do. We actually still have our lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles.
So let's catch our newer audience up that maybe hadn't followed this. So you were terminated, but you actually weren't terminated. You were on leave of absence without pay for 3 or 4 years.
So yeah, I was put off of work on December 1st, 2021, for not taking the shot. And not filing a religious exemption or a medical exemption. And I had filed a constitutional exemption stating that my attorney filed that for me, stating that I had a First Amendment right to freedom of religion, just as Congress did. And the thing that's unique is the city was asking me to file a religious exemption. But the city has an ordinance that was passed in 2018 that says the city or any government agency or program is not allowed to ask you to file an exemption or participate in any program that requires you due to discrimination issues. And so they're asking me to file it. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry. Almost pulled the cord out.
You're a menace over there.
I am. Yeah, I'm a menace to this table. So they're asking me to violate another city ordinance to comply with this ordinance to file a religious exemption. And the other thing that I stated was, you're asking me to file an exemption. And when I'm asking to be exempt, that means that I'm saying that it's okay for you to tell me what I can do with my body, and I'm asking to opt out of that this time.
You're giving authority up.
Yeah, I'm giving my own free agency and authority and sovereignty that is given to me at birth.
Right.
Right? And I'm asking to opt out of that.
And it's given to you actually under the Constitution of the United States.
It is,
it's
in the
not
First
just,
Amendment.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go with God that we believe in that, but let's also say we live in the United States for that freedom.
Right.
And I think people forget the Constitution has value. We've forgotten what its meaning is.
Yeah. And so, the city ran roughshod over it. And not only, the federal Constitution, but the state Constitution, And so that's what we filed our lawsuit on, was California Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, that basically protected your privacy rights, body autonomy, your genetic privacy. So there's a lot of things that, they were violating, and mandates, when you look in Black's Law Dictionary as well. Black's Law Dictionary, you look up the word mandate, it states that the mandator is asking you to do something, and the mandatee, it's voluntary. You have the ability to say no.
But you lost in court on this.
So that lawsuit's still going.
Okay.
So that lawsuit pushed through Superior Court here.
So it went through a series, because I remember we showed up and they said they weren't going to hear it. I forget. We showed up for you. And so you've been through this whole rigmarole over these years. But in the meantime, they actually...
delayed.
Justice, yeah. And in the meantime, they fired you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Relieved you of duty or whatever it was that they did?
Yeah, so they relieved me of duty on December 1st, 2021. And then I was off duty, leave with no pay.
As a fire... And you're a paramedic fire?
I was a firefighter paramedic.
Okay.
Yeah, for 23 years with the city. And they relieved me without pay, which is illegal. The Firefighter Bill of Rights prohibits that. A 1975 California Supreme Court ruling, Skelly versus the State Labor Board, states that I have a property right to my job, and then I need a pre-disciplinary hearing before they can remove me from duty.
Which you went, and then they ruled against you?
So they put me off violating those things. And again, we filed a preliminary injunction on that. And then the judge dismissed it, saying that, at the time, 85 people had died. We can sue them later for our money. But, that didn't help me at the time because, again, I'm off without pay.
Right.
For no reason.
And you can't get another job. That was the other thing. Because they hadn't relieved you of duty. They relieved you of duty, but not relieved you of employment.
Correct.
So therefore, they put you in a position that you're either going to sign or you're going to go broke.
Correct.
And you
it's
said
coercion, which is a felony.
Right. Right. So they've put you in a position you can't go out and get a job because then you're double employed, which is illegal. Like they pigeonholed you into this situation. In the meantime, they went ahead and they unrolled all the mandates.
Well, no, they didn't. All across the country, the mandates were, dismantled, but the city of Los Angeles actually kept their mandate in place until I think it was about 4 months ago. Our lawsuit went through. We filed an appeal. And
by the way, you have a union that did not stand for you.
Correct. Yeah.
Because I outed the president on social media. I actually called him. You guys posted his personal cell phone, so I called him at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
He answered the phone.
Yeah, that was the same gentleman that...
And he wouldn't come on the radio and talk about it either.
That assaulted me at Matt Mamone's Board of Rights hearing when they terminated him. So, yeah, there's a lot going on with all of that. So, our case, fast forward, went to the appellate court, got heard, and the appellate court sided with us. It went back to Superior Court and is supposed to be heard. And then 4 months ago, when the city dismissed the mandates, they continued to terminate individuals that were in my position, same thing, that had not gone along with that program. They put them back to work, and then they proceeded with the Board of Rights. They terminated one, they suspended another one, and then they gave another one a reprimand after the mandate is gone. Okay? So now...
So that's retribution.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, retaliation, whatever, however you want to look at it. So now the city is trying to get it dismissed as being moot, that, it's gone, the mandate, there's no point, so we want the case dismissed. Well, it's not, because in reality, that, you drop the mandate and you continue to fire people. It's not moot. And it still doesn't negate the fact that you violated constitutional rights. So that's not moot either. So,
and is there not any public official that can also be sued in this as opposed to just suing the city? You can't sue the body that is managing.
Oh, you mean like the LA County Board of Supervisors
Exactly.
and the mayor of Los Angeles?
Doesn't
Yeah,
make
the
sense
mayor.
that they're
And the city
immune.
council
Chief,
of Los
city
Angeles?
council, yes, they can all be named. Yeah.
Right.
So, so now that's going through. We actually had a meeting with one of our attorneys over that this week, and I'm not going to say what we're doing right now with that.
That's okay.
We're going to continue to push forward, against the city.
Well, I mean, you have to, because you still haven't been paid for 4 years. I mean,
well, yeah, they terminate. So they did terminate me.
so they terminated you, and then you lost your pension on top of it.
Yeah. So they terminated me Thanksgiving of last year, 23, after being off for 2 years. And
I think we had you on the LAHRC show at that time. Or
Yeah,
somewhere
I
right
think-
about there. I think you were on
right before or right after? I
right
can't
before or right
remember,
after.
yeah.
I think you were coming up to your court date.
Yeah. So in that Board of Rights, they terminated me. They said that I violated a condition of employment, which my union has said they've never signed. There's nothing in our MOU or contract that states that was a condition of my employment. Nowhere in my hearing could anyone produce a document that said that it's a condition of an employment that was signed off by our bargaining unit. So they just continue to push this agenda and run roughshod over you. I mean, it's David and Goliath,
Do you think if your union actually took a hard stand for you and all the other firefighters, this would have not been an issue? Do you think the city would have backed down? Do you think the union played a part in it?
My personal opinion? Yeah.
Yeah, your
I
personal
do.
opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Are
Are there any changes coming up with the union? Because aren't they coming up for a re-election?
They
or?
are. There's actually an election going on right now. There are, I believe, 6 members from the board of Firefighters4Freedom that are actually still employed by the city of Los Angeles, and they are running for office to take over the union. I am not one of them.
So do you have to be employed by Los Angeles in order to run for the union?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's why you're not employed. Otherwise, you might be the next union president.
So no, we do have president. We've got secretary. We've got a bunch of positions that they're running for. So, and good for them.
Now,
there
who
needs
votes
to be
them
change.
in?
The members of we have
Oh.
3,500 members of the LAFD.
So, okay, so the LA City Fire Department
Yes.
members are the ones are they? So, it's not the public service that votes it in. It's
No, they're the members.
It's the actual firefighters and paramedics.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So they're the voting body of the Los Angeles City Fire Department.
Now, what's going on with the chief? Because there was a chief change, and she didn't. You guys were hoping maybe she might step up, and she didn't. What's going on with her?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is she
what's
still
going on
chief?
with her. She's still fire chief, yeah.
And how is she elected in that position? How does she get that position?
No, she's appointed
By the
by
mayor?
the mayor. Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, then there you have it.
The mayor appoints
The chief of police, the chief of the fire department.
Daryl Gates and Manning were the last 2 that actually had civil service protections. After they stepped down, they changed the ruling, and now they are appointed. So, they really don't have any power to fight back against anything from that standpoint, because if they do, they're basically an at-will employee, right? So,
Right. They're a talking head.
Yeah, it's a puppet. And they do the bidding of whatever city council wants or the mayor. So we
have the Olympics coming up. We have the what is it? The soccer, what is it? World Cup or something. And then don't we have the Super Bowl coming or something like that? Isn't this what's
I know we
coming?
have the Olympics coming, but
We have the Olympics, but there's 3. There's another one coming. I can't remember which one it is. How do you think the fire department's going to manage that? Because my fire department by me is only open 2 days a week in Woodland Hills. Yeah, every time I drive by, it looks like it's completely empty, like there's nobody there.
Yeah,
because my gym is across the street.
I don't know. Usually 3 days that someone else does.
Right. Because it's a 24-hour shift.
24-hour shift, right. So,
which means if you're on call for 24 hours, you're not sleeping in that 24-hour period.
The city is extremely busy. We run over 2,000 calls, on average is about what we're doing right now, 2,000 calls a day, or what they're doing. Let's put it that way.
Not what I'm doing, but what they're doing.
What they're doing. And so, it's extremely busy. There's really very few stations that are slow anymore. And so you really get your butt handed to you. And you're constantly running and moving and
but aren't they still rotating?
And so, well, let me
okay.
Recall or a sign hire is, you get a sign hired, you get a code, and then if they're short that day, basically your code's up, you end up working that day.
Now,
doesn't matter if that was your day off.
Right, but do you work the station you normally work, or are you going to be assigned to a different station?
It all depends on where the vacancies are. So if there's no vacancies at your station, you'll go somewhere else. Now, let's say they go through all of those sign hires, which they do, and they still have vacancies. Now they recall. And so the recall, and this is where the union, right, it should come into play, is that they are there for wages, benefits, and working conditions. Well, our recall basically had stated that it was for emergency situations like, right, an earthquake or a natural disaster, right, whatever, fires.
Or the 2018 fires.
Right. So, but not for staffing shortages. So the union, it's a big deal in the fire department right now in LA City with that. That's a really big issue because now guys are, they're working 3, 4, 5, 24-hour shifts in a row.
Okay,
right?
so when you get a
recalled.
recall, that means you've done your 24-hour shift. You're supposed to be home for the next 24 to 48 hours, and they're going, oh, no, we're going to keep you, and by the way, we need to send you to a different station because your station's full, but, the one that's an hour and a half away isn't. Now you need to go to downtown L.A.
Yeah, and so guys are burnt out. They're tired.
Well, they're not seeing their families.
Yeah, it doesn't, let's say you're supposed to be going on vacation, and you get recalled, or you've got...
what if you're on vacation?
Well, you're on vacation, you're gone. They can't touch you. So, but yeah, so it creates
2 minutes.
It creates havoc, and it creates a very burnout workforce. And then when the union's not there, standing up for you, doing what they're supposed to be doing, there's a lot of lip service, and I don't care whether the union hears this or not. You don't like me, you don't like me.
Well,
you
we've
didn't
already
stand up for me.
established that they don't. So,
I've gone to the union multiple times in my career, and 0 times
so
I've ever been helped.
let's just say that you get a regime change in the union, and these people are going to stand up against the mayor and the powers that be, and the chief of the fire department. What does that look like for the constituents that we're paying our property taxes for? And our property taxes are high, right, Don? We're paying a ton of property taxes, especially in the city of Los Angeles. So what does that look like for the people like us that have emergencies, that have a car accident or a heart attack at home or a fire at home or any kind of number of emergencies?
1 minute.
Not the cat stuck in the tree.
Yeah. So, what it really needs to do is, I know the guys are running on trust and transparency. There's been a lot of issues in the union, and there's some things going on right now that I think the membership is really concerned about. And, these guys want to do the right thing, right? They want to let the membership know that they're there for them, because a lot of the membership right now feels that the union is not backing them, in these issues where they're being run into the ground, right? These working conditions aren't appropriate.
But how does the union go in and say, yeah, we know you're short on that's our music. We'll be right back. We're on AM 870 The Answer. This is Jeffy Said What. We'll be right back with John Knox and Don Monroe, and catch us in about a minute. And we are back. Okay, so we were talking about the union, and my question to you was, if your union has a changeover, and let's say you get better people that are really willing to do what the union is supposed to do. The unions are supposed to protect their members. So right now you have the mandatory stayover, the recall.
Recalls, yeah.
So if, let's say you get this changeover in your unions, and that in your new board, your new union leaders say to the city, sorry, these people are not showing up for work today because they've already done their 24-hour shift. You need to figure something else out. how does that affect the city? What recourse does the city do? I want people to understand how important the union is to the fire department, because when you have firemen and paramedics showing up that have now worked 5 24-hour shifts straight,
They're
who
exhausted.
knows? But who knows if they had a slow night, a busy night, or an average night?
Yeah.
And now they're expected to administer medical attention. Plus, they still have all the stuff that goes on in their personal lives. And now mistakes start happening. Lives are at risk.
They do. We've had traffic accidents, where
They just had
drivers have gotten in accidents because they're exhausted. You got to think of the ramifications of all these things, right? When your members, when those firefighters, those paramedics are working that many shifts in a row, and they were expecting to go home and get rest and whatever was happening, handle their lives as well, and that's not happening, that really takes a hit in morale-wise. And when you're pushing medications and, you're on that sharp end of the spear. And over a period of time, it really affects, your judgment and a lot of different things. And so, to me, I don't know, what their plan is of action, what they're going to do, if they win and they get into that spot. I'm not in that. I'm not involved
No.
in that,
I guess
but
I'm just wondering, how powerful is the union to protect its members against these recall mandates that are going down with the city?
It has. The union has a lot of power and a lot of pull. And that's what they're there for or what they should be there for is to protect their membership from those, what I would call abuses, right? Because there's policies in place, but then whether it's the department or the city or whoever is working that is like, no, well, this is what it really means. No, that's not what it means. It means this. It says it very specifically here, and you're violating it.
Right. So let's say that you get that union change. How does it affect your lawsuit? Because now you've got a union that is more like, is it going to impact it, or is the past union? So it has. It's not going to have an impact.
It has no bearing on our lawsuits. That our lawsuit isn't against the union or anything like that. So, yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, no, I just find it interesting. Well, not interesting. It's kind of, when you have truck drivers, the entire federal government has gone, nuclear on the truck driving industry, and they require book records, how many hours drivers are on the road. It's why our freight has gone up like triple, because drivers used to, drive blood red shot eyes through the night to get to Chicago and charge a $800 freight. Well, now it's like $5,000 to go. So
that could be fuel cost too.
No.
We shipped a pallet through FedEx, and it was a $2,900 cost to go from LA to Chicago, one way.
But the whole point is that you
250
have people
pounds.
who are sleep deprived, who are on the roads with all of us. It's only. They equate the lack of sleep as to being just drunk.
Absolutely.
Right.
I've been there.
So it's like that's insane. Nothing protects anybody, at least in business, from a lawsuit that is negligent.
Yeah.
And this is entirely negligent. It's
I would
obviously
agree
taxpayer
with you.
dollars, but they just.
Right, and that's a huge thing, right? Because the city or the department, it's not falling on them. You know, they have a lawsuit. Oh,
is there any log books and things that that the fire department would have to fill out? No. Wow.
Well, maybe we need one of our newly elected assembly senators in California to write a bill.
Save our firefighters. That's
right. Save our firefighters, save our public for public safety, and require that.
You wouldn't even know if there was an incident, right? And it was caused by being sleep deprived.
Well, I think you probably would, because you know how many hours they're on the clock.
Yeah, you could do a public records request and look.
But that's a scary thought,
and the
though.
department itself, they know how long their members are on there. And it used to be you could only work X amount of hours in a row, and then you would have to get a battalion chief to sign off. And that, but then that all went away. And we got guys, you could work every single day because there's staffing shortages. We have people that work 25 days
Have they lowered
a
the
month.
standard of like for entry? Is like we had LAPD go from and I think that was more of a choice. They went from like people with a AA down to
That
high
was the
school
sheriff's
diploma.
department.
Sheriff's department, that's right. Sheriff's department. Is that anything like that happening with firefighters? know?
It's been, I don't know where they're at right now. I know there was a point where we did have rookies that would come through, and they had no clue on what we would do. They didn't really understand the job. They didn't know, they're not a fit for the job, whether you had a degree or whatever it was. I'm not quite sure, honestly. All I know is that at one point there was quite a few people, and you just
usually you're just trying to get more people to join, and so you either throw
It
incentives,
used to be,
you lower the bar.
It used to
whatever
be you
gotta do.
waited 5 years to get on the department, and you had to go through every hoop known to man. I mean, getting on LA City Fire Department was like the job of the country.
I remember when I took my test back in 90.
And you came from law enforcement.
Yeah, I did, and then I think I took the test in 98, and there was it was at the convention center, and it was 3 days of testing that they had because there were so many people. It was like 20,000 people taking the test, 15,000 people.
That's amazing.
And they're hiring, couple
6
hundred.
positions.
Yeah. It was crazy,
Wow.
But then COVID came along, and then nobody wanted to work here because of the mandates, right? And they couldn't get people, they couldn't retain people, and that created a mess. And then they drugged that thing out.
Well, there were people that tried to retire out of LAPD and the fire department over the mandates, and then they started saying we can't lose these people, so they stopped. They put a freeze on people retiring. I'm like, how do you tell someone they can't retire?
Well, I don't know about that. I didn't hear about that, but yeah.
It just seemed like
I
people
know
had
we
a
had
hard
people-
time that retiring.
I know we have people that left because of that, because of the mandate. But okay, I'm done,
Yeah. So now what are you doing? I understand you were in North Carolina
I was.
during Helene.
Yeah.
Right after Helene, actually.
Yeah, we were actually I work with a company called SRP, Strategic Response Partners, and they are a disaster management company, and we deal with asset owners in critical infrastructure, large commercial structures and stuff like that, continuity of business, and making sure that they have what they need to, if they get hit by a storm, putting their business back together. Because most people don't understand, whether you're a property manager or a business owner, you're used to maybe like a toilet flooding or something like that, or one of your units is down. They're not used to, a 20-story high rise.
That's an emergency in my office. I'll tell you right now.
Especially after your morning coffee. But they're not used to a 20-story high-rise full of condos, right?
Right.
That are annihilated. And so normally as human beings, what we do is we go, okay, I've got 26 tasks, right? A through Z, and we need to go through all of these. Well, if you go in a linear fashion like that, it's never going to get done. So we have to function in a space where it's like A through E all has to be done at the same time, right? And then we can move on to the next set of things. So there's all of these systems that we have to be doing in parallel to make this whole thing function. So we started out in Tallahassee. You there?
Yep.
Okay.
We're here. We're listening.
Yeah, my headphones are going bananas. So we started out in Tallahassee because Helene was supposed to hit there. And we went to visit clients and customers out there. And then it swung down and went through Steinhatchee in the Big Bend area there and missed Tallahassee. And that's when it went up into South Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. So we ended up going up there, and we were doing humanitarian aid up there. We started running a lot of helicopter operations.
Where'd the helicopters come from?
Those came from not the government.
There you go. And that's what I wanted to get to.
Yeah, so...
not the government.
Yeah, no, there was zero government help in North Carolina.
You had mules. You had people that brought their mule trains up to save lives.
There was everything.
How'd you feel about that, though? Like, just seeing that?
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, not awesome the government didn't show, but awesome the number of people that stood up for their own communities.
Well, No, I'm going to say I think it was awesome on both ends of that, from the spectrum, that it allowed people to understand that if you rely on your government to save you, you're probably going to die. Because that was an epic failure on our government's part. We have FEMA, and their job is the Federal Emergency Management Agency, right? And their job is to be prepared for any incident, right?
Financially, physically.
Wide area disasters, right? All scenario disasters. That's what they should be doing. And, we're there 8 days out, and FEMA's barely showing up. They've got a couple of things showing up, and then, we had issues.
What's a couple of things?
Where,
like a tent?
Yeah, essentially.
And here, come fill out information, and maybe we'll give you $750, but you need to qualify.
It's a loan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a loan, exactly.
It's a loan. It's not even, what does $750 do when...
You don't have a house, you have nothing.
Yeah, you have nothing.
You don't even have a tent. You can't even sleep in a tent.
Yeah, so, it was horrible from that. And I'll tell you, my heart was crushed for the people of North Carolina, but the respect that I have for the mountain people of the Appalachia, bro. Man,
they made their own roads. Their roads are up and running.
They told the government at basically to go F yourself, I know we're on the radio, so I can't say what I want to say, but
smart man.
They
or well trained.
Pointing at Michelle.
They are absolutely the most resilient people I've ever met in my life. They were so awesome. They're so humble. They would give you the shirt off your back, and to see people and businesses. So like I said, we did helicopter operations, right? We ramped up 3 different helicopter operations. We did stuff with Samaritan's Purse, which is Billy Graham's charity. We set up at their airport, and we had 7 smaller helicopters, from MD 500s to Bell 407s, 206s. We had 2 Chinooks and a Blackhawk. And so we were running 10 helicopters.
And they're all privately owned.
All privately owned.
And they spent the people that own those aircraft spent their own money to fly.
They paid their pilots. And then we also helped fund fuel.
Which is expensive.
Strategic Response Partners funded fuel for a lot of the operations. And so, it was, when we were working with Samaritan's Purse, that was really awesome, because so Dr. Phil came out and went out in Samaritan's helicopter and surveyed the areas. I
didn't even see any press on that.
Yeah, that was press.
Well, I guess I didn't see it.
Elon Musk stepped up to the plate and was donating. I think we put out over 500 Starlinks.
I heard about that.
And then, so when we were doing the operation with Operation Starlink with Samaritan's Purse, we had about 165 of the Starlinks that weren't operating correctly. So they brought out a bunch of techs, and so we flew techs all over the Appalachia and the mountain regions up there. We would drop them off, give them 2 hours to fix the system and get it up and running, so that these rural, remote communities had outside access, internet, satellite, and comms, because that was huge. You're talking about, these areas are rural, and there's 2-lane roads getting into some of these, and the devastation was absolutely mind-boggling, and the lack. Even the state government wasn't helping,
And they've never had a hurricane.
No,
it's like, that's just not an area that they have hurricanes.
Yeah, you don't have hurricanes up there in the Appalachia. It's a very mountainous region. Your hurricanes come off of the Gulf, right, and they'll hit the Carolinas, but usually right there.
Along the coast,
right? And then they break up, and so, and then flooding. You don't have flooding up there like that either. So most of those people didn't have flood insurance, and so the sad thing is that a lot of them, those are homesteaded homes, and
right.
They didn't have the insurance, and
I heard Amish people were like, we're going to go over there and rebuild some homes.
Oh yeah, the Amish have been showing up. They brought all their own materials and they used the land, and all they asked was that you not take pictures of them. They fed themselves. They lived off the land. I mean, these things that I've seen, and they said you could take pictures of the back of us, and that was all you could do. And I mean, when you think about how the South stepped up for itself, and I mean, it's really, really incredible.
It truly gave me faith in humanity because I'll tell you.
They came out and voted. These people didn't have homes and they voted.
Yeah. I literally was losing faith in humanity. I mean, what I've seen over the past 4 years has just been disgusting. And you know, I mean, we deal with a lot of disaster zones. And I mean, Ian was horrible. You know, I mean, that was absolutely horrific down there in Florida. And man, just to see people and companies coming out and doing, you know, technically what the federal government is designed to do.
I mean, Walmart sent out, 56-footer trucks full of anything and everything you could possibly imagine. Yeah. They had tents, they had everything, clothing, everything. It was unbelievable.
But doesn't it just boil down to the simple fact that, you know, there's gotta be a I don't know, getting back to the basics of what we value, right, amongst in our community. I mean, people. You don't have a society without people.
No, right. And there has to be community.
And it's got to be community,
and they have a sense of community.
And we're just at a point, I think, that, you know, we've been so divided on so many different issues.
Yeah.
From race to your sexuality to, you know, how, you know, financially to, you know, who's got more than the other guy and why, and all this. Shaming, blaming, it's disgusting. Like you were saying, I mean, at some point you're just disgusted, because it's like, well, what does it all boil down to at the very end of it all? We're not here forever. No. And yet, you know, the time that we are here and how we want to show up every day, Jeffrey's phrase, how you show up in the world.
How you show up matters.
Is
absolutely.
You know, what does it take to be kind, to...
What does it take to just let somebody in on the freeway? I mean, I mean, seriously.
Jeffy, it's personal, right? Jeffy has a personal story.
I know. Yeah,
I don't have a personal story. I just let people
happened to her on the way in.
On the way in.
Someone's got a blinker on. I'm like, okay, it's stop and go traffic. Am I going to sit here? Am I going to let 5 cars in? Probably not. But this guy looks like he's got to get off the freeway for some reason. Yeah. So I'm just going to stop and let you in. I'm not going to cut a truck off. But I mean, it's just something that simple. I mean,
it really boils
down to... Listen, I'm spending a lot of time in the car these days, okay?
It all boils down to, you know, to me.
I did work from home,
what
you know.
I learned from being in these disaster zones is we're all humans
right.
at the end of the day, right? I mean, you and I get up the same way, right? We roll over, you get out of bed, you put one foot in, right?
And you all need a bathroom.
Yeah, right? Same thing. And we're all... We don't create that divide. That divide is created by someone else. And that's what I think people really need to wake up to, is that I don't care what color you are, what race or religion or what sex you are.
It was kind of like with Tomer, who would go
from Israel.
From Israel, and he would just go in and when they had the October event.
So when October 7th hit,
he
just happened to be in Israel when it hit, and he's Israeli. Mm-hmm. And his best friend was a part of the organization that goes in and cleans up bodies from war. They were in Ukraine, they've been all over the world, and they tend to be
But this man has seen so much death and so much disgusting things, and has a tremendous amount of compassion and love of life, his family, and just people. And he didn't care. He treats the bodies of Israelis no different than the bodies
of the terrorists. And he then... This was a man that was not politically active in any shape or form. I found him on Instagram, and I asked him to come in, and it turned out he lived in Tarzana, and he's like, I'll be happy to come in. He came in, and he's been a guest multiple times.
Yeah.
But he did something else. He started working with the victims He and the survivors of October 7th, and the artwork. So if you've been in downtown LA and you've seen the bloody pants hanging that are 3 stories tall, that's his artwork. That's Tomer. Tomer has gotten very involved. He's been back and forth to Israel multiple times. And I think it's when you see these types of tragedies, like you say, Don, that people of just normal circumstances that just went about their lives doing really whatever they did every day, all of a sudden said, I need
think
to
it's
step up.
trauma. I mean, for me and my family, it's the murders of our my brothers were murdered. I've had cousins that were murdered, and after a while, you just sit around and you just think, man, you start to really appreciate those times that you're together, those times that you go and and build memories, etc. And my family, we tend to grow with buddies and from neighborhoods. As we have a lot of family that never leave, that are friends that came in, and even divorcees and stuff. It's like, well, they still stick around. apparently we're doing something right. But the point is that we genuinely show love to our people, and I think in our society, I don't know, we have like you said, so much has been wedged between all of us. It's just terrible. And then, come on.
But you know what, though?
That's how they maintain control, though, right? Is if the powers that be are driving a wedge between us, right, creating division, then we're too busy arguing and fighting amongst ourselves as human beings to pay attention to all the nonsense that's going on that they're doing, right? All the corruption that's happening. We sit back now and everybody goes, how did it get like this? How did they get so corrupt?
Exactly.
Because they're too busy arguing
that's right.
over all this nonsense.
Well, but so this is why I got involved with Firefighters for Freedom. This is why I'm now getting involved with, Warriors in Need. And I think that when you find a charity and you step up and you become part of these charities, even in the smallest way, whether it's a donation financially or whether it's of time of volunteering for the day and making a different decision or whatever it is that you're doing, those things matter. Those things count. That's the community you're choosing to be a part of. You chose to go out to North Carolina. You could have said, I know this is the job that I'm doing, but I've got things here at home, send somebody else. But instead you chose to take your skill set of having worked in law enforcement, having worked in the fire department, being a paramedic, said, hey, how can I help? And I think that's why we saw this country turn red, because I think that people saw what happened in North Carolina.
I think this election cycle really, as divided as everybody wants to say people were, I think actually brought a lot of people together.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Especially like the blatant, obvious remarks of the Democratic Party. Like, if you don't vote for me, you're not black, type of stuff. At some point, even my own family on the black side of my family was just like, I can't believe that was even said, and that Charlemagne didn't just respond in disgust. It was just kind of like, whoa. And we have all this stuff with the Diddy case going on, and all these. All
Everyone's
this
canceling
money
their
being
Twitter accounts.
thrown, all this money being thrown. It was always, the Republicans they're the rich snobs. They're the ones that want to keep you guys enslaved and suppressed and whatever. And yet, who's getting $10 million to go over there and speak up for a candidate?
You mean Beyonce for 2 minutes and Lady Gaga? She.
And I'm just saying, people are seeing this and say, "Whoa!" It's obvious. It's like cat's out of the bag.
1 minute.
The people in power who have been in power are just fat pigs.
I think you can only gaslight people for so long, right? And then all of a sudden, people are like, they wake up. They're like,
they
I'm
did. They
tired
did
of
in this past
crap.
election.
Yeah,
but I think it's also too, you can't devastate people and not help them.
Even Hispanics. Even
Hispanics are.
They're just like, you know what? I love my family. I don't want to put Johnny in the dress.
Well, and I think the important thing to like this election,
he wants
right?
to be, I guess.
If he wants to be, hey, whatever he wants to do, right?
Well, it depends on how old he is.
So, but the point being, I think what's really important to take out of like this election cycle is that, okay, great.
We're coming at the end. Good.
We have this individual who got elected, right? He's not going to be your savior.
Right.
It's really important now that you as individual Americans, sovereign human beings, step up and continue to push back against those powers.
Run for office.
Yeah, get into office. Get into your local school board.
Support,
and you know
support
what's
the
crazy?
people that are running and
Community.
know who they're running.
I think
Yeah.
we'll talk about it in the show coming up, but there was only like 4 or 5 of our legislator seats that went uncontested, really.
Right, where when I first
Which-
ran, there were like 26. But this is the end of our show. We went through so quick. And John, we are so grateful that you came in again.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Michelle, you guys have been here all day. Thank you so much.
Thank
You're listening
you.
to Jeffy Said What with Dawn and Jeffy on AM 870 The Answer. And we'll see you all next week.